What are the risks of starting a single member LLC? This is Sam Bryant. I'm a business attorney with Bryant Taylor Law. So if you're thinking about starting an LLC and you want to be a single member LLC, meaning that you're the only owner of the company, there are certain risks involved with that. The most obvious risk in the business law community would be that there is an element of a limitation on your liability protection. Without going too deep into it, just know that the LLC laws were meant to protect business owners, their personal assets from business owners from the debts and liabilities that their companies create. Because the idea is that these LLCs are separate entities. So individuals who are a part of an LLC should not have to bear the risk of their personal assets for the actions of a completely separate entity. So they were really designed to protect the individual members. So if partner A does something within the LLC, partner B doesn't necessarily have to worry about their personal assets being at stake. But with the rise of popularity with LLCs came a lot of people who wanted those same type of liability protections but don't have business partners, which is what we're talking about now, is the single member LLC. So theoretically, a single member LLC does get liability protection, but there's been a development over the past few years in the Florida courts that call into question, or at least bring a little bit of doubt into how much protection does a single member LLC actually have when it comes to the debts and obligations of the LLC. So that's just one little risk there, that there has been, a door has been opened a little bit for the court system that has to an extent limited the liability protection that a single member LLC could have in comparison to a multiple member LLC. But it doesn't mean that there is no liability protection whatsoever. There still is an element of liability protection. It's just that it may not be the exact one-to-one same as you would have if you had a multiple member LLC. So that's kind of one risk. The ultimate risk that I see with starting a single member LLC is basically the risk is that you're not going to treat your LLC as a separate company. Because when you're a single member LLC and you own 100% of the company, there really isn't another person to hold you responsible for how you're operating a company, how you're distributing the profits, and how you're making these major decisions. So without that check and without that balance of a separate person, then it's very easy for you to navigate your LLC and be a little bit less stringent on how you're maintaining your corporate records, how you're maintaining the bank account, and how you're actually running it. And I mention this as a risk because in doing that, in failing to maintain proper corporate records and not having your proper internal documents and not keeping track of notes of major decisions, you're risking the corporate shield, the liability protection that you're likely counting on in starting the LLC in the first place. Because the basic rule that we have to understand here is that in order to get full liability protection, to as much as you can possibly get for operating your LLC, you have to treat your LLC as a separate company. And so we call it the corporate formalities. If you don't follow these corporate formalities, then you're leaving yourself open in the event of a lawsuit of you having, as an individual owner, of you having to cover the judgment of the LLC if you were to lose a lawsuit. So with that said, if you're going to start a single member LLC, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that single member LLCs have a lot of risk in the sense that it's very easy to not follow the corporate formalities because you don't have another person in the organization at your level who can keep you in check. So I tell clients and I tell people who are in single member LLCs to even be more diligent about the record keeping and more diligent about how they're separating their personal assets from the company assets, because of those reasons. Is that courts kind of target, in my opinion, they target single member LLCs, and so you want to make sure that if you are ever brought into court as a single member LLC, that the extent of any liability that you will ever have is limited to the LLC and never to any of your personal assets. Hope you found that video helpful. If you did, we have a lot of other videos on the channel that can help you start and grow your business. And if you want to speak to a Florida business attorney, our contact information is in the description below.